This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 421 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, we're going to be jumping into strategies for maximizing business visibility and diversifying income with Cindy Doyle. I am so excited about this conversation. Cindy is a longtime client that is also an insider. She has been a member of my masterminds, as well as I am finally going to get to meet her in person and give her a hug while she attends my insiders retreat in November that I am hosting. So I am really excited about this conversation. Cindy is really going to pull back the curtain on how a service-based business can really start to diversify their income, increase business visibility by doing numerous things. Now, before we jump in, I want to make sure that if you haven't already grabbed our strategic growth plan, that you do so. You're going to hear Cindy talk a little bit about your unique positioning. She's also going to give you some different tips. All of this is inside the strategic growth plan. It shows you exactly how to go about making sure that you have these so that you can continue to serve your audience and diversify your income. You can go to your favorite podcasting app. It will be right there, or just hop over to the blog post and it is there as well. All right, let's dive in. Hi, Cindy. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hi, Jenny. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, I am excited about this conversation, what everyone can take away from it. But before we really jump into it, can you actually introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about your business? We're going to talk more about your journey and all of that, but give them the basics.
Yeah, so I'm Cindy Doyle. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I have a group private practice in North Texas area. And I also have a company called Code 4 Couples. It's the number 4. And I will talk about that journey in a second. But that company is an education-based company. And I educate law enforcement officers and their spouses on emotional and relational health and how to be resilient while living in the career of law enforcement. I work with a lot of first responders in general, but mostly law enforcement. I'm a podcaster. I'm an author. I think I can call myself a content creator. So yeah, that's a little bit about who I am. I travel and I speak a lot.
Yes, I was going to add you're also an international speaker as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so.
Oh my goodness, yes. So I love so much about what you do and how you have been able to make your business become more visible and let people know that you're out there. When did you decide that you wanted to go from the practice to helping people and creating the content online so that you could actually reach more people?
So part of it is my own personal journey and being married to a law enforcement officer, being a trauma counselor, but also a couples therapist as well. I would see couples come into the therapy room and seemed like I was doing great work with them, but for some reason, my own relationship was annoying to me. And there were things that I would try to do that just didn't land. Part of my journey was doing my own research because there was nothing out there for police spouses except books that basically said, suck it up, buttercup, or a lot of trauma-based things. And so I wound up digging into, I nerded out and I went into research journals and went into like police psychology journals or police and law enforcement journals to figure out maybe what was going on that I didn't know. So throughout that journey, I found out that there was a lot of neuropsychology that was going on with his brain that conditioned him to respond the way he does. One of my sayings that I commonly use, what phrases are, what keeps you safe on the job spills over at home. So all those things that were keeping him safe on the job that he did day in and day out, we were unaware that it spilled over at home. So as I started to fix my own relationship after being 15 years married and figuring that out, and I was working with people in my office, and I thought, I wonder if I could do something bigger. And of course, for me, it always comes in those moments of like sitting in quiet and doing that. And so I just thought, is there something I can do that's bigger? Can I do something bigger? And I kind of go into things really naively. And so I said, I'll start a blog.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how the journey happened is in I think 2016 was actually my first blog. It was also when there was a shooting. I think 5 Dallas officers were shot. And so that's really what pushed me to want to do more for that community, to support that community. And it kind of grew from that blog and just randomly deciding to do a podcast. Like I said, I just jumped in and I didn't know what I was doing. It's only later that I was like, oh, there's like strategy to all this. So that's kind
Yeah.
of how I got into doing what I do. Yeah.
But your gut was set up correctly. Like you knew that you
Yeah.
wanted to get it out there. And I think that that's part of the reason that a lot of small businesses will often fail because
Hmm.
they're not sure what their overall purpose is. They're not sure about the problem that they're trying to solve for their audience. And you knew that. That was why you were trying to get it out there. You were trying to put your voice out there
Yeah.
more and really educate others on how they could handle what they were going through better. I
Yeah.
love that you took your own situation and not only from the therapy room, but then also your relationship with your own husband that was an officer. I'd say was because he obviously retired, and
He's
I know that.
retired.
Others may
Yes.
not know that though. So I think that that's how it all starts. That's when businesses, small businesses actually start to click, is when we're able to apply our own personal experiences and then start to get the word out to serve others and help those that are really
Yeah.
struggling. And I think that that's one of the amazing things about your business. That
Thank
is
you.
just one of them because there are so many things. So now you mentioned that you also have the podcast, and how are you using that to increase your visibility?
So the podcast has been my best marketing because and it's shifted over the years. It started with just me, and then at some point in time, I thought people were saying, "Hey, can I be on your podcast?" It's kind of funny in a way because it's like that first blog or that first podcast, and you think, "Oh, nobody's going to hear it," and then slowly it starts to grow because it's yeah, and even as you and I have talked before, like it's so niched. So the podcast really is my best marketing. I have had ups and downs, but as far as energy level of getting it out, but the last 2 years I've been really consistent, and I can see it based upon who's listening. People will find me based upon the podcast. I can't talk. I think the really tangential aspect of the podcast that I did not expect, besides just getting out to people, I'm always, like you're right, I've always been very clear about my mission. And this comes from a heart place as opposed to anything else for me.
Yes.
Um, what's interesting about the podcast for me, though, is people in authority will find the podcast and they'll hear me speak with with authority. I'll say that as a subject matter expert. And so it gives them a flavor of who I am. And I think that is something that I did not intend as a part of it. I intended to share information. And what's happened instead, or with that, is that people have said, man, she really knows what she's talking about. This is really interesting. She's really personable. She doesn't mind talking about her own failures or making jokes or occasionally swearing. I think it's real. And so people hear me and they connect that way. And so that's the best marketing because people way over social media for me, because people hear me and they hear my voice and they connect with me and they'll ask me questions about my dog or my husband or my travels because I throw those in too. So it just kind of personalizes it for sure.
Before the podcast, were you speaking and getting paid for it the way that you are now?
No,
Okay.
in no way. No. I spoke occasionally at my statewide professional conference, and those are always free because you submit a conference proposal
Mhm.
and you just do it for free.
Right.
So that was not even on my radar.
Yes. And it has, would you say that, what percentage would you say now your speaking income is, if you feel comfortable sharing, of your overall income?
So if I break it up into thirds,
Mhm.
my speaking is two-thirds of my income and my therapy is another third.
Right.
So yes, it is. I Speaking and training is a big part of what I do now. And I will also say this because sometimes people think, oh, well, that's maybe because you do it more. And I will say that I spend less time. It might be intense time going and doing and training. So, like this past weekend, I was in Michigan. So I was there and I flew in on Friday. I came home on Saturday, came home on Sunday, and I spoke on Friday for 4 hours and
Mhm.
got to enjoy Mackinac Island because they paid for me to go there.
Right.
So it's not that I'm going every weekend. It's just that I am able to um, charge what I'm worth and find that value and other people find value in what I have to say.
Yes. Yes. And I think that, like you said, with the podcast, it gave them an opportunity to find you. And this has become very much what you do and who you are. Now, you're also utilizing the podcast in another way. So you're not simply just putting it up on your the favorite podcasting apps. How else are you utilizing your podcast on your website?
So on my website, what I do is I take it and put it into a blog. So that's a big part of it, right? So this was a mistake I made when I started podcasting was I just did a podcast and I didn't understand that podcasts in themselves would not drive traffic to my website. I could put links or things in there, but I wasn't really even doing that. And so really making sure that I am turning my podcast into a blog which then drives traffic to my website and Mr. Google finds me as it is. So and even there, I'm still learning, right? There's still ways to do it. Part of this being such a niched area, um, I rank really well on things like law enforcement divorce because that's what people are Googling. But really digging in and finding what are other ways that I can bring people in and being more strategic also about what content I'm putting out in the podcast, which is a different angle than what I've done in the past, which is just randomly produce podcasts. So there's that.
Yes. And there's a plan behind it all, right? Because you are
Yes.
actually creating the podcast and then having the blog post that goes with it. Now they go to your blog post and they end up on your beautiful website that
Well,
is
thank you.
easy to navigate. It
Well, thank
provides
you.
them with routes to take to identify
Yes.
their pain points, their needs, and allows them to find all of the things that you offer, the services, the products, the book, the speaking opportunities, everything that you offer is easily accessible on your website.
Yes.
And now you're driving them there from your blog content and they're finding you that way.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's been it's still a journey because there's always thinking about, okay, what's the next thing I want to create or what's the next product? And then I get distracted because I'm like, I gotta go do some speaking. And then I come back, right? So it's always a journey. There's never a perfection, like I'm done. It's always just kind of like what's shifting, what's changing, what's staying on top of it. I think also as I've moved through it, my perspective changes too. So where I was 6 years ago is very different than where I am today. So, yeah.
And you've managed to keep up with the trends and stay
Yes.
top of mind for the people that are going to be able to hire you to speak, that are going to be able to hire you to train, and then also the audience that you are continually serving.
Hey there, guys. My name is Melanie from Mostly Under Control, and I am a member of Jenny's Influencer Entrepreneurs Insiders membership. I've been a part of it since 2017, and over these 6 years, I've taken full advantage of the weekly trainings that Jenny offers and the monthly group coaching. The group coaching is probably my favorite part of the membership. Jenny has taught me so many things for my business. She helped me niche down and write and teach about what I wanted so that I wouldn't burn out. In addition to what she teaches, the networking I've done with other members has been invaluable. I recommend her membership to all of my online business owner friends because it is worth every single penny.
With the track that you are on right now, you're obviously your 2/3 you said was from speaking and training. And
Right.
I also know a little bit about your business, obviously, as we work together. You also are you have the ability now to be able to really help that audience even more by offering them products, services to be able to guide them more with their relationship. Right now, the
Right.
product that you have that you would offer first and foremost to someone that comes to you that is like a spouse of an officer would be what product?
Well, right now I don't have too many products. What I have is my book and I have my workbook that goes along with it. I have some freebies and opt-ins, and that's what I have to offer is education to those individuals. What I've really focused on is departments, because departments and agencies and organizations are the ones that are kind of that, I think of it like the big pumpkin, right? So that's where I get those bigger paychecks. And so that's where I've really focused. And I'm having to almost backfill with growing content for the individuals now. So I'm really excited about how I have it potentially laid out. And we're doing like a lifespan journey for the law enforcement career. So I'm excited about that and what I'm going to be providing. Right now, for departments, what I have is I took my book and I made a train the trainer program from it. And so that's what I've been focusing on right now is teaching and working with uh, big law enforcement agencies to impact their workforce and help them grow.
Yes, yes. And I think that that's one of the amazing things about what you have done is that you took risks on things that you thought felt a passion for with the blog and
Mhm.
then also with the podcast. And because you were putting your heart, which is what your words, and it's absolutely what I see, because you're trying to serve those people, others saw that. And you
Mhm.
started this whole speaking portion of the income that is part of your revenue now and leaves you the opportunity to be able to really fill in your product suite with products for that audience, those spouses, those officers whose departments may not have the income where they can pay you to be able to come
Right.
out to speak or do training.
Yes. Yes. It was, and I'll just really quickly, it was never my intention. I never ever thought that departments would be calling me to come speak. I really thought I would be reaching out to the individuals, people like myself, spouses, or the officers, or people saying, "Hey, why isn't our relationship working?" And it did start that way. And then all of a sudden, people found the podcast and jumped on it. So much so, Michigan State Troopers is who I spoke for, and he introduced me Saturday and said, Cindy doesn't know this, but she's with me on my drive to work 2 or 3 days a week because he listens to my podcast. He has an hour-long drive and he listens to my podcast. And he says, I will go back and listen to old episodes because I always hear something new to impact my relationship. So, yes, back on your point, the idea of like being able to go back and provide more for people that are one-on-one, um, and accessing the website that want to dive deeper into how to impact their relationship or what to know, um, as far as like a course, you know, that they can go through with me, not one on one, but, online, recorded, and being able to access all the information in a different way and dive it deeper into what's in my book.
Yes. So now, what? if someone wanted that's listening that's was thinking, you know what, I want to be speaker. I want to get paid to talk about my passion, to talk about what I have expertise in. Are
Yeah.
there recommendations that you could give about how to go about getting started with speaking? And would you suggest a podcast as like a first step?
I would for sure suggest podcast. I initially also posted YouTube videos with it. So I would record my podcast and I would put the video up there as well. And so people would see that and see me speak. I think there's a couple things that I would really recommend. First of all, you really have to have your messaging down. Know what you really want to highlight and talk about. Know your area of expertise. Know what makes you unique in how you're presenting information. I think that we can really get, and I did for a little bit, um, get kind of caught up in like, well, why am I more unique than anybody else? Why would somebody want to hire me? And so kind of overcoming what makes you unique. Part of what makes you unique is your story. And
Mhm.
so I always make sure to like share your story. And that can be really, I'm going to use the word vulnerable in the sense that you're sharing a part of you but people connect to you, right? So people connect to your struggles and your journeys and they're like, "Yes, thank you for making me feel seen. I have struggled with that too." So I would say a podcast kind of gets that out there. To messaging. Make sure your messaging is clear, know what you want to say. So I have some really clear messaging. The first one is what keeps you safe on the job spills over at home. I use that all the time. One of the other ones that I use all the time is your brain is there to make you keep you safe, not make you happy. So there's messaging that I have in regard to that. And for the life of me, I cannot like rattle off my other two messages right now, but that's normal.
Yes.
So and then from there, what do you want to talk about? What's the message that you want to get out? And I think in podcasting or blogging or whatever medium that you use, when you're talking about something on a regular basis and you keep breaking it down, people are like, oh, wow, I want to hear more of that person. Um, that's really kind of what I would recommend is being clear on those aspects of your messaging and making sure that you know the message you want to get out. The really positive thing for some of my messages is it's a short message, right? What keeps you safe on the job spills over at home. And I can unpack that for hours, like
Right.
hours. I can unpack that. Um, I think it's also really helpful to have, first of all, go on other people's podcasts. So leverage somebody else's audience and talk to them. And because people are always looking for podcasters. Other video that you can use that maybe you've been interviewed by somebody else that could be a part of things. One aspect that I'm doing now, I have like all these things pinned, but I have a video that I was recorded at a presentation, and so they gave me that video and because they had recorded it, and so I'm
Mhm.
taking that and editing it down so then I can drip it out to people that want to see me. So it can also be a part of your email, your opt-in, your freebie to send video out. Um, I also recommend that if you're going to do speaking, that you are active on LinkedIn
Mhm.
because that's the audience that is going to hire you. Your audience is not going to be on Facebook or Insta, right? I'm not on TikTok, but people may see you from that and they're going to validate your credentials or verify your credentials on LinkedIn. So your LinkedIn content is important. I will tell you though, my very first speaking gig that I got was from a spouse who heard my content. And she gave it up to her husband, and her husband was like, "Oh, this looks really good." So you don't know where that's coming from. Nobody's your competition, right? Stand out, don't compete. So,
Yes. Yes. And the podcast provides you with that opportunity for anyone to find you and hear you and be
mhm,
hooked into what it is that you're doing. So I love that you took that,
absolutely.
ran with it. Now, with your business overall,
Hmm.
You're very open about that. You say you've made failures. And I think one of the things I love about you is that you've never failed. You failed forward. You figured it
Yeah.
out. You've seen, okay, that didn't work. Let me pick myself up. I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to keep moving. And you've obviously had struggles over the years. 2016, you're talking about you went through COVID. You went through as a police officer's wives, Black Lives
Funding.
Matter,
Yes. Yes.
all of the things.
Right.
What would you say is the number one tip that you would probably give people that are trying to get a business off the ground, even with all of the things that are going to come up in life in general?
Consistency. It's better to do small things often, just like your marriage and relationship. It's better to do small things often than it is to like come on bold and then go away. Um, so if that is, um, you don't have to do a podcast weekly, right? So I don't think. And I did it last year. I did a podcast weekly and I was like, whoo, okay, I did that. Not going to do it again because it was a lot. So what I did this year was I recorded I had all of my podcasts recorded by March
Right.
and I drip them out every other week. But it's that consistency. People don't know that I batched it all. They
Mm-hmm.
just see the consistency of dropping of the podcast, right? So do something you can do with consistency. It's easy to want to bite the elephant, right? I'm going to start eating the whale or the elephant or whatever it is, but
Mm-hmm.
instead do something that you can do consistently small. Um, that's probably my biggest advice if you're going to start doing something is consistency.
Yes. Now, if someone listening is a police officer's wife, spouse, where can they go to find information about you? If my listeners are someone that says, "Oh, Jenny said she's got a beautiful website. I want to see what this looks like." Where can we find you?
I am easily found at all things code4couples.com. So it's CODE number 4couples.com. That is my Instagram, that is my website, that is my podcast, that is my everything. I would also say, if I want to throw this in too, don't don't try to be clever with your business names. I would say be direct. And looking back, if I'm going to talk about a failure really quickly before we go, looking back, I wish I would have put it something simple like law enforcement, mental and relational health, as opposed to doing what I did. But people know me now, right? So yes, code4couples.com, website, podcast, YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, all the things.
Perfect. We're going to link to that in the blog post that everybody can take a look. Definitely go and explore Cindy's website. She's done a great job with her opt-ins, showing how her speaking, really making sure that all of what she offers is right center where you can find it easily and get involved with what she is doing. So she's a great example if you were looking of how do I make my website a bit more so that it's meant for the right audience. Cindy, I truly appreciate you taking the time to speak with me and share your
Of
knowledge with
course.
my audience and also sharing your struggles and strengths as well.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Hopefully everybody learned something from it. Thank you.
I'm sure they will. All right, well, there you have it. Cindy is one of my favorite people. You have to make sure that you hop over and take a look at her website because she has done an amazing job of really being able to help you navigate through and see the products and services that she offers. She has a strategic plan in place to increase her visibility through her blog posts, her podcast, and then she has a plan that is going to help her actually diversify her income with that actual strategies that she has in place. If you haven't already grabbed our business growth plan, make sure that you do so. This is how clients that you are hearing me interview are really starting to be able to continue to grow their business and diversify that income that they're looking to grow. All right, until next time, I will see you all then.